Maya Johnson pushed her cleaning cart down the long hallway of Orbital Station Meridian. The wheels made a soft humming sound against the metal floor. She had walked this same path every night for 7 years. Outside the massive windows, Mars glowed red in the distance. The station orbited the planet like a giant steel wheel in space. It was 2247, and humanity had spread across the solar system. Space stations like Meridian were common now. This particular station was special, though. It housed the headquarters of Hyperion Industries, one of the biggest companies in human space. They controlled most of the asteroid mining operations between Mars and Jupiter. Maya was 42 years old. Her dark skin showed a few wrinkles around her eyes from years of smiling. She wore the standard gray uniform of the station's cleaning crew. The uniform had her name badge on it, but nobody ever looked at it. To the people who worked in these hallways, she was invisible. She started her shift at 10 in the evening and worked until 6 in the morning. The executive tower was her assignment. This was where the important people worked. The offices had real wooden desks brought up from Earth at enormous cost. The carpets were soft and expensive. Everything here spoke of wealth and power. Maya didn't mind being invisible. In fact, she preferred it. When people didn't notice you, they said things they shouldn't. They had meetings and conversations right in front of her. They discussed deals worth billions of credits. They gossiped about each other. They revealed secrets. Maya heard it all. She pushed her cart into conference room 7. This room could hold 50 people. The table was made of dark wood that gleamed under the lights. Maya began wiping down the surface. As she worked, she thought about her life. She hadn't always been a cleaning woman. Years ago, she had worked as a technician on a mining station in the asteroid belt. She knew how to read sensor data and repair equipment. She understood how stations worked, their systems and their secrets. But then Hyperion Industries had automated their mining operations. Robots replaced human workers. Maya lost her job along with thousands of others. She had 2 children to feed. Her mother was old and needed medicine. Maya couldn't afford to be unemployed, so she took the first job she could find. Cleaning paid enough to survive. It wasn't what she had trained for, but it was honest work. The door to the conference room opened. 3 executives walked in, talking loudly. They didn't even glance at Maya. She moved to the corner and continued cleaning the windows. "The Viridian deal is finally happening," one man said. He was tall with gray hair. Maya knew he was the chief financial officer. "Palmer is going to make history." "Those aliens better be worth all this trouble," another executive replied. She was younger with sharp eyes. "We're giving them access to half our asteroid belt operations. In exchange for their power technology," the third person added. "Do you know what that's worth? We'll be able to power entire colonies with devices the size of a suitcase. It will change everything." They continued talking, but Maya focused on her work. She had heard about the Viridians. Everyone had. They were the first alien species humanity had made contact with. They came from a star system 40 light-years away. Their ships could travel faster than anything humans had built. They looked like living crystals, beautiful and strange. The alliance between humans and Viridians was big news. Some people were excited. Others were afraid. There were protests on Earth and Mars. Some groups believed humans should remain isolated, that aliens couldn't be trusted. Maya finished cleaning and left the room. The executives never stopped talking. They never acknowledged her presence. She was part of the furniture to them, no more noticeable than a chair or a lamp. She moved through the executive tower, cleaning each space with practiced efficiency. The offices were empty at this hour. Most executives worked day shifts. Maya preferred it this way. Quiet nights gave her time to think. At midnight, she took her break in the staff lounge. It was a small room with a table and a few chairs. The cleaning crew had their own space separate from everyone else. Maya sat down and pulled out her dinner. It was simple food, rice and vegetables she had prepared that morning. Another cleaner came in. His name was Carlos Martinez. He was older than Maya, with white hair and a kind face. They had worked together for 5 years. "Did you hear about the ceremony?" Carlos asked as he sat down. "They're bringing the Viridian delegation here in 3 days. The final signing will happen in the Grand Hall." Maya nodded. "I heard the executives talking about it. Security is going crazy," Carlos continued. "They're checking everyone's credentials 3 times. They brought in extra guards from Earth. They even have military ships stationed around the station." "Makes sense," Maya said. This is the biggest deal in human history. I just hope nothing goes wrong, Carlos said quietly. There are a lot of people who don't want this alliance to happen. Maya thought about that as she ate her dinner. Carlos was right. The protests had been getting more violent. Last month, there had been an attack on a Viridian embassy on Luna. Nobody was killed, but it showed how some humans felt about the aliens. After her break, Maya returned to work. She moved through the corridors like a ghost. Her cartwheels hummed. Her cleaning supplies clinked softly. The station was peaceful at this hour. She reached the private elevator area that led to the CEO's offices. This was the most secure part of the tower. Gregory Palmer, the CEO of Hyperion Industries, had his personal quarters and office on the top 3 floors. Maya had clearance to clean there, but she always felt watched. Cameras covered every angle. As she cleaned near the elevator, Maya noticed something. There was a maintenance crew working on a wall panel. That was unusual for this hour. Most maintenance happened during the day shift. She watched them for a moment. They were installing something, small boxes with blinking lights. One of the maintenance workers noticed her looking. His eyes met hers for just a second. Then he turned away quickly. Something about his expression bothered Maya. He looked nervous, maybe even guilty. Maya finished her work and moved on. She told herself she was imagining things, but the image of that nervous worker stayed in her mind. Something felt wrong. She had worked on this station long enough to recognize when things were out of place. The rest of her shift passed without incident. At 6 in the morning, Maya clocked out and headed home. She lived in the residential section of the station, in a small apartment with her 2 children. Her mother had her own room. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. As Maya rode the transit pod home, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Viridians were coming. In 3 days, history would be made. Everyone was focused on the big picture, the grand ceremony, the future of humanity. But Maya couldn't stop thinking about that nervous maintenance worker and the strange boxes he was installing. Nobody else would notice such a small detail. Nobody else would care. After all, she was just a cleaning woman. What could she possibly know that mattered? She would soon discover that sometimes the people no one notices see the things everyone else misses. The next evening, Maya returned to work with the strange maintenance crew still on her mind. She tried to focus on her duties as she pushed her cart through the executive tower. The station felt different tonight. There was an energy in the air, an excitement that made everyone move faster and talk louder. Everywhere Maya looked, she saw preparations for the Viridian arrival. Workers were polishing every surface until it gleamed. New decorations were being installed in the grand hall. Security personnel stood at every intersection, checking identification badges with unusual intensity. Maya started her rounds in the conference rooms. As she entered conference room 3, she found it full of people even though it was nearly midnight. A large holographic display showed the Viridian ship approaching through space. The ship looked like a massive crystal, catching light and throwing rainbow colors in all directions. 2 more days, someone said with excitement in their voice. Maya recognized him as one of the junior executives. Can you believe it? We're about to change the course of human history. A woman standing near the window turned around. She was older, with silver hair pulled back in a tight style. Maya knew her as Virginia Hayes, the Director of External Relations. She was one of the few executives who occasionally acknowledged Maya's existence with a brief nod. The contract is worth more than money, Virginia said. The Viridians are offering us technology that will solve our energy crisis. Every colony in human space will benefit. Ships will be able to travel farther. Cities will expand. This is about our future as a species. What do we really know about them, though? Another voice asked. Maya glanced over and saw a younger man she didn't recognize. They could be deceiving us. Maybe their technology has hidden dangers. The science teams have been studying Viridian technology for 2 years. Virginia replied firmly. There are no hidden dangers. They've been completely transparent with us. More transparent than most human corporations, if I'm being honest. The group laughed at that. Maya continued cleaning, moving around the edges of the room. She might as well have been invisible. The conversation continued as if she wasn't there. What does Palmer think about the security concerns? Someone asked. Virginia's expression became serious. Gregory is aware of the threats. The protests on Earth have been getting worse. There are extremist groups who believe contact with aliens goes against human nature. Some of them have made explicit threats against the signing ceremony. That's why we have military ships surrounding the station, the junior executive said, and why security is tripled. Nobody unauthorized is getting anywhere near the Grand Hall. Maya finished in that room and moved to the next one. As she worked, she thought about what she had heard. Threats against the ceremony. Extremist groups. Military protection. It all made sense given the importance of the event. But something still bothered her about those maintenance workers from the previous night. She decided she was probably overthinking it. The station had lots of maintenance work happening all the time. With the ceremony coming up, extra upgrades and installations were normal. At 1 in the morning, Maya took her break. The staff lounge was empty tonight. Even Carlos wasn't there. Everyone was busy with ceremony preparations. Maya sat alone with her simple meal of bread and soup. She pulled out her personal communication device and checked messages from her children. Her daughter Sophie had sent a video from school. She was 10 years old and excited because her class was going to watch the signing ceremony on the station's public screens. Her son Jacob, who was 8, had drawn a picture of what he thought the Viridians looked like. It made Maya smile. Her mother had sent a message too. The old woman's health was declining, but she remained cheerful. She wrote that she was proud of Maya for working so hard to support the family. Maya put the device away and finished her meal. She thought about her life and how she had ended up here. There had been a time when she had bigger dreams. She had wanted to be an engineer, to design the systems that kept space stations running. But life had other plans. Education was expensive. Her father had died when she was young. She had to work instead of going to advanced school. Still, she had learned a lot working on that mining station. She understood technology and systems better than most people realized. It was just that nobody ever asked her opinion. Nobody cared what a cleaning woman knew. After her break, Maya returned to work. She made her way to the upper levels of the executive tower. Tonight, she was assigned to clean the executive dining room and the private offices near it. These were spaces where only the highest-ranking people in the company were allowed. The executive dining room was beautiful. Real plants grew in containers along the walls, brought up from Earth at enormous expense. The tables were set with actual glass and china, not the plastic dishes used in the regular cafeterias. Paintings hung on the walls, original artwork worth more than Maya would earn in a lifetime. As she cleaned, Maya heard voices from the hallway. She recognized one immediately. It was Gregory Palmer himself. The CEO rarely stayed on the station this late. He usually left by 6 in the evening. His presence here at this hour meant something important was happening. Maya continued her work as Palmer entered with several other people. She kept her eyes down and moved quietly to the far side of the room. They sat at one of the tables and didn't even glance in her direction. "The final contract details are settled," Palmer said. His voice was deep and confident. He was a man used to being in charge, used to getting what he wanted. "The Viridians have agreed to all our terms. In exchange for mining rights to the outer asteroid belt, we get full access to their fusion technology." "What about the military?" a woman asked. Maya recognized her as Admiral Kate Morrison, the head of station security. "The military is satisfied," Palmer replied. "The Viridians have no interest in human conflicts. They're scientists and explorers, not warriors. They simply want access to resources they can't easily obtain in their home system." "And the protests?" Admiral Morrison pressed. "The intelligence reports show increased activity from anti-alien groups. There was another demonstration on Luna yesterday. 300 people. Palmer waved his hand dismissively. "Let them protest. They're on the wrong side of history. Humanity's future is in the stars, and that future requires us to work with other species. The Viridians are offering us partnership, not domination. Anyone who can't see that is a fool." "Some of those fools are dangerous," the Admiral said quietly. "We've intercepted communications suggesting possible violence. Nothing concrete, but the threat is real. That's why I'm paying you and your security team very well," Palmer said with an edge to his voice. "Your job is to make sure nothing goes wrong. The Viridians arrive tomorrow evening. The ceremony is the day after. I want every possible threat eliminated." The conversation continued, but Maya had finished cleaning the area near them. She moved toward the door, still invisible to the powerful people at the table. As she left, she heard Palmer laugh at something someone said. He sounded completely confident, completely in control. Maya moved through the corridors with her cart. The station seemed especially quiet now. Most people were asleep. Only the essential staff worked through the night. She reached the elevator area where she had seen the maintenance crew the night before. She looked at the wall panel where they had been working. The small boxes with blinking lights were still there. Maya moved closer to examine them. She wasn't supposed to touch equipment, but her curiosity was stronger than her caution. The boxes looked like environmental sensors. The station had thousands of them, monitoring air quality and temperature. But something about these seemed different. The lights blinked in an odd pattern. The installation looked rushed, not neat like normal station maintenance. Maya reached out and touched one of the boxes. It was warm, warmer than a sensor should be. A small display on the side showed numbers she didn't recognize. They weren't measurements of air quality or temperature. They looked more like a countdown. Her heart started beating faster. This wasn't right. Something was very wrong with these devices. But she was just a cleaning woman. What did she really know about station equipment? Maybe these were new models she hadn't seen before. Maybe the maintenance crew had a good reason for installing them this way. Maya pulled her hand back and continued with her work. But the uneasy feeling in her stomach wouldn't go away. She decided that tomorrow she would report what she had seen to her supervisor. Let the experts figure out if there was a problem. As she pushed her cart down the empty hallway, Maya didn't know that she had just discovered the first clue to a conspiracy that could destroy everything. The countdown she had seen on that device was real. Time was running out, and she was the only person who had noticed. Maya arrived for her shift the following evening with determination. She had spent the day thinking about those strange devices. During her sleep period, they had haunted her dreams. She needed to report what she had seen, even if it made her look foolish. Her supervisor was a man named Frank Cooper. He was 50 years old and had worked on the station for 15 years. Frank was not a bad person, but he was tired. He did his job and went home. He didn't like complications or extra work. Maya found him in the cleaning crew office at the start of her shift. The room was small and cluttered with supplies and equipment. Frank sat at a desk reviewing work schedules on a display screen. "Frank, I need to talk to you about something," Maya said. He didn't look up from his screen. "Make it quick. I have to finish these schedules." "There are some devices installed near the executive elevators," Maya explained. "They look like environmental sensors, but something about them seems wrong. They're warm and they have countdown displays." Frank finally looked at her. His expression showed mild annoyance. "Maintenance installs new equipment all the time. Why are you worried about sensors?" "They don't look right," Maya insisted. The installation was messy, and why would they be installed at night? Most maintenance happens during day shift. "Maya, you're a cleaning technician, not an engineer," Frank said. "The maintenance department knows what they're doing. Those sensors are probably part of the security upgrades for the Viridian ceremony. Now please, I have work to finish." Maya felt frustration rising in her chest. "Can you at least check with maintenance? Just to make sure?" Frank sighed heavily. "Fine. I'll send a message to the maintenance supervisor. But I'm sure it's nothing. Now go start your rounds. You're wasting time." Maya left the office feeling defeated. She knew Frank wouldn't follow up seriously. He would send a quick message and forget about it. Nobody would investigate because nobody cared what a cleaning woman thought she had seen. She started her work in the conference rooms. The station was even busier tonight. The Viridian ship had arrived and was docked at the main port. The aliens themselves were being housed in a specially prepared section of the station. Tomorrow was the signing ceremony. Everyone was focused on the big event. Security walked the halls in groups. Executives rushed from meeting to meeting. Nobody had time to worry about strange sensors that probably meant nothing. As Maya cleaned Conference Room 5, she overheard more conversations about the ceremony. A group of engineers discussed the technical aspects of the Viridian fusion technology. They used complicated words Maya only partially understood, but their excitement was clear. This technology would change everything. Maya finished in that room and moved to the next one. As she pushed her cart through the corridors, she made a decision. She would investigate the sensors herself. She had technical training from her mining station days. Maybe she could figure out what they really were. At midnight, Maya took her break. She didn't go to the staff lounge. Instead, she went to a public computer terminal in one of the common areas. She accessed the station's maintenance records. These were public information, available to all staff members. She searched for recent installations near the executive elevators. According to the records, no maintenance work had been scheduled in that area for the past week. The environmental sensors in that section had been upgraded 6 months ago. There was no reason for new equipment to be installed now. Maya's heart beat faster. If no work was scheduled, then who were those maintenance workers? And what were they really installing? She continued searching through the records. She found similar unexplained installations in 3 other locations. One was near the Grand Hall where the ceremony would take place. Another was in a service corridor that connected to Palmer's private quarters. The third was in a storage area near the main power systems. All the installations happened at night over the past week. All of them had no official records. All of them were in locations connected to either Palmer's daily route or the ceremony venue. Maya felt cold despite the station's controlled temperature. This wasn't random. This was a pattern. Someone had carefully placed these devices in specific locations. And if they weren't environmental sensors, what were they? She thought about the countdown she had seen. Countdown to what? An explosion? A release of toxic gas? Some other form of attack? Maya knew she needed help. She couldn't handle this alone. But who would believe her? Frank had already dismissed her concerns. Security was too busy to listen to a cleaning woman's suspicions. She needed solid evidence, something undeniable. She left the computer terminal and returned to her cart. She made her way to the Grand Hall. This was where the ceremony would happen tomorrow. The hall was massive, capable of holding 2,000 people. It had been decorated with banners showing both human and Viridian symbols. The stage was set with a table where Palmer and the Viridian leader would sign the contract. Maya entered the hall and began cleaning. As she worked, she looked around carefully. She found what she was searching for near the ventilation system on the east wall, another one of those small boxes with blinking lights. It was partially hidden behind a decorative panel. She approached it carefully. This one was identical to the others. Same warm surface, same odd countdown display. She pulled out her personal communication device and took several photographs. The pictures were her evidence. As she was photographing the device, she heard footsteps behind her. Maya turned and saw a security officer entering the hall. He was young, maybe 25, with a sharp expression. His uniform showed he was part of the special security detail brought in for the ceremony. "What are you doing?" he asked. His tone was suspicious. "Cleaning," Maya answered, trying to sound casual. She slipped her device back into her pocket. "I work here." The officer looked at her identification badge. "You should be cleaning the conference rooms at this hour, not the Grand Hall. This area is restricted until after the ceremony." "My supervisor assigned me here," Maya lied. There was a schedule change. The officer studied her face for a long moment. Maya forced herself to remain calm. Finally, he nodded. "Finish quickly and leave. This area needs to remain secure." "Of course," Maya said. She returned to her cart and left the hall as quickly as she could without appearing to rush. Her hands were shaking. That security officer had been watching her too carefully. His questions had been too pointed. Maya had a terrible thought. What if some of the security personnel were part of the conspiracy? What if the people she needed to trust were actually the enemy? She spent the rest of her shift in a state of heightened awareness. She noticed things she had never paid attention to before. Certain security officers who didn't interact with others. Maintenance workers who moved through areas without proper authorization. Small details that individually meant nothing but together formed a disturbing pattern. At 3 a.m, Maya was cleaning near the executive elevators again. She saw another maintenance crew working on a different wall panel. She recognized one of them from the first night. He was installing another device. This time, Maya watched from a distance. The worker glanced around nervously several times. When he finished, he and his partner left quickly. They didn't log their work on the public terminals. They didn't follow standard safety protocols. They were trying to be invisible, just like Maya, but Maya saw them. She saw everything because nobody noticed her. She was the invisible observer who had stumbled onto something terrible. She returned to the computer terminal and checked the crew assignments. The names on the maintenance worker badges were real employees. But when she looked up their photographs in the personnel files, the faces didn't match the people she had seen. Someone was using stolen or forged identifications. Someone had infiltrated the station security and maintenance systems, and that someone was preparing to do something catastrophic during the ceremony. Maya's break ended and she returned to work. Her mind raced with possibilities. She had evidence now. photographs and records of unexplained installations. But she still didn't know who to trust. If she went to the wrong person, she might be silenced before she could warn anyone. As dawn approached and her shift ended, Maya made a decision. She would go directly to Palmer. He was the target, which meant he wasn't part of the conspiracy. If she could reach him and show him the evidence, he could mobilize the loyal security forces to stop whatever was being planned. The ceremony was set for 2 in the afternoon, less than 15 hours away. Maya had until then to save Palmer's life and prevent a disaster that could destroy the alliance between humans and Viridians. She clocked out and headed home. She wouldn't sleep today. Instead, she would prepare for the most important day of her life. The day when an invisible cleaning woman would try to save history itself. Maya sat in her small apartment staring at the photographs on her communication device. Her children were at school. Her mother was resting in the next room. The apartment was quiet except for the constant hum of the station's life support systems. She had not slept. Instead, she had spent hours reviewing everything she had seen and documented. The photographs showed the suspicious devices clearly. The maintenance records proved they were unauthorized. The pattern of placement indicated careful planning. Everything pointed to a coordinated attack. But Maya needed to understand what these devices actually were. She needed to know for certain before she risked everything by going to Palmer. If she was wrong, she would lose her job and probably be blacklisted from working on any station. If she was right but couldn't prove it, the same thing would happen. She thought about her old training from the mining station. She had learned to analyze equipment and systems. She had studied station engineering even though she never got formal certification. Maybe she could figure out what these devices were designed to do. Maya looked at the clock. It was 10 in the morning, 4 hours until the ceremony. She made her decision. She would go back to the station early during day shift when she normally didn't work. She would examine one of the devices more closely. She would get the proof she needed. She changed into her work uniform and kissed her sleeping mother goodbye. She left a message for her children telling them she loved them. Then she left the apartment and took the transit pod to the executive tower. The station was crowded during day shift. Thousands of workers moved through the corridors. Maya blended into the crowd easily. Nobody questioned a cleaning woman carrying her identification badge. She reached the executive tower without any problems. The executive levels were busy with ceremony preparations. Caterers were setting up food stations. Technical crews were testing holographic displays. Security was everywhere, but they were focused on protecting the important areas and the important people. They didn't pay attention to Maya. She made her way to the service corridor near Palmer's quarters. This was where she had seen one of the first suspicious installations. The corridor was empty at this hour. The executive staff used different routes during the day. Maya approached the wall panel where the device was installed. She pulled out a small toolkit she had brought from home. These were basic tools, the kind any station worker might carry. She opened the panel carefully. The device behind the panel was more complex than she had realized. It had multiple components connected by thin wires. A small power cell provided energy. A timer displayed a countdown. And at the center was something that made Maya's blood run cold. It was an explosive charge. Not a large one, but sophisticated and powerful. The kind of explosive used in mining operations to break apart asteroids. Maya had seen devices like this before. She knew exactly what they were designed to do. Her hands shook as she took photographs of the opened panel. This was the proof she needed. These weren't sensors. They were bombs. And based on the countdown, they were set to detonate during the ceremony. Maya closed the panel carefully. She needed to check the other locations to confirm that all the devices were the same. She made her way to the grand hall. Security was heavier here, but Maya walked with confidence. She had learned that if you acted like you belonged somewhere, people rarely questioned you. She entered the hall through a service entrance. Workers were setting up chairs and testing audio systems. Maya moved along the wall toward the ventilation system where she had seen another device. She pretended to inspect the floor for dirt while actually watching the workers. When nobody was looking, she opened the decorative panel. The same type of explosive device was there. Same timer, same countdown. Maya took more photographs and closed the panel. She had seen enough. All the devices were bombs. They were placed to kill Palmer and probably many others. The explosions would happen during the ceremony, in front of the Viridian delegates. It would be a massacre that would destroy the alliance and possibly start a war. Maya left the grand hall and headed toward Palmer's office. She had to reach him now. There was no more time for hesitation. She took the executive elevator up to the top floors where Palmer worked. The elevator required special clearance. Maya's cleaning badge shouldn't have worked, but the system was programmed to allow cleaning staff access to all areas. She rode up alone, her heart pounding. The elevator opened into a reception area. A secretary sat at a desk managing Palmer's schedule. The woman looked up as Maya entered. Her expression showed surprise and annoyance. "Can I help you?" the secretary asked. Her tone made it clear Maya shouldn't be there. "I need to see Mr. Palmer," Maya said. "It's urgent." The secretary's expression changed to barely concealed contempt. "Mr. Palmer doesn't take meetings with cleaning staff. If you have a work-related issue, speak to your supervisor." "This isn't about cleaning," Maya insisted. "There's a threat to his life. There are bombs in the station." The secretary stared at her for a moment, then reached for her communication device. "Security, we have a situation in Mr. Palmer's reception area. A cleaning woman is making threats." "No, you don't understand," Maya said desperately. "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm trying to warn him. There are explosives planted throughout the executive levels and in the grand hall." The secretary continued speaking to security. "Yes, she claims there are bombs. I think she's mentally unstable. Please send someone immediately." Maya realized she was making a terrible mistake. The secretary thought she was crazy or dangerous. Security would arrive and arrest her. Nobody would listen to her warning. She needed to leave and find another way. She turned toward the elevator, but it was too late. Two security officers emerged from a side door. They moved toward her with their hands on their weapons. Maya recognized one of them. He was the same young officer who had questioned her in the grand hall the night before. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," the officer said. His voice was calm but firm. "Please listen to me," Maya pleaded. "There are bombs in the station. They're disguised as environmental sensors. They're set to explode during the ceremony. I have proof." The officer looked at his partner, then back at Maya. "Ma'am, making false threats is a serious crime. You need to come with us to the security office." "Look at my device," Maya said, pulling it out. "I have photographs. I have evidence." The officer reached for her device. Maya hesitated, then handed it over. He looked at the photographs for a moment. His expression didn't change. "These are pictures of station equipment. Environmental sensors. There's nothing unusual here. Look closer," Maya insisted. "Those aren't sensors." I opened one of them. There's an explosive charge inside. There's a countdown timer. The second officer spoke for the first time. He was older, with cold eyes. "Did you tamper with station equipment?" "That's a violation of regulations." Maya felt panic rising. They weren't listening. They thought she was either lying or insane. "I'm trying to save lives," she said. "The ceremony is in 4 hours. Those devices will explode. Hundreds of people will die." The young officer's expression softened slightly. "Ma'am, I understand you're concerned, but the station has been swept multiple times by security. We've checked every system. There are no explosives." "You missed these," Maya said. "They were installed at night by people using forged identification. I have the maintenance records. They show unauthorized installations." The older officer grabbed Maya's arm. "That's enough. You're coming with us. We'll sort this out at the security office." As they led her toward the elevator, Maya saw Palmer himself emerge from his office. He was tall and distinguished, wearing an expensive suit. He looked at the scene with mild curiosity. "What's happening here?" Palmer asked. The secretary answered quickly. "A cleaning woman tried to force her way into your office, sir. She's claiming there are bombs in the station. Security is removing her." Palmer looked at Maya. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Maya saw the same dismissal in his gaze that she had seen thousands of times before. She was nobody to him. A cleaning woman having some kind of breakdown. "I've seen things nobody else notices," Maya said quickly, speaking directly to Palmer. "I work nights. I'm invisible to everyone. I've been watching people install fake sensors for a week. They're bombs. They're going to kill you during the ceremony." Palmer studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to the older security officer. "What's your assessment?" "She's confused, sir," the officer replied. "Possibly mentally unstable. We'll process her and determine if charges should be filed." Palmer nodded. "Handle it quietly. I don't want any disruption before the ceremony." He turned and walked back into his office without another glance. The door closed behind him. Maya felt despair wash over her. She had failed. Nobody would listen. Nobody would investigate. The officers led her into the elevator. As the doors closed, Maya realized something that made her blood turn to ice. The older security officer's grip on her arm was too tight. His expression was too satisfied, and when she looked at his identification badge more carefully, she saw a slight imperfection. The holographic security feature was wrong. This officer was part of the conspiracy. He wasn't taking her to the security office. He was taking her somewhere else, somewhere she wouldn't be able to warn anyone ever again. The elevator descended through the executive tower. Maya stood between the two security officers. Her mind raced as she tried to figure out what to do. The younger officer stood near the control panel, watching the floor numbers change. The older officer still gripped her arm tightly. Maya looked at the older officer's face more carefully. His eyes were cold and alert. This was not a man concerned about a confused cleaning woman. This was a man eliminating a problem. "Where are you taking me?" Maya asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "To processing," the older officer replied. His tone was flat, emotionless. The younger officer seemed uncomfortable. He shifted his weight and looked at his partner. "Shouldn't we take her to the main security office?" "That's standard procedure. I received orders to use the lower-level facility," the older officer said. Less disruption for the ceremony preparations. Maya realized the younger officer wasn't part of the conspiracy. He was just following what he thought were legitimate orders. This gave her an idea. If she could make him doubt his partner, she might have a chance. "What's your name?" Maya asked the younger officer. He looked at her with surprise. "Officer Danny Price." "Danny, how long have you been working station security?" Maya asked. 6 months, he replied. "Why? Have you ever taken someone to the lower-level facility for processing?" Danny hesitated. "No, but I'm new." "That's because there is no lower-level facility," Maya said quickly. "Standard procedure is main security office on level 12. Your partner is taking us somewhere else." The older officer's grip tightened painfully on Maya's arm. "Shut up," he said quietly. Danny looked confused. "Is that true? I thought all processing happened on 12. "This is a special situation," the older officer said. "The main office is too busy with ceremony security." Stop listening to her. The elevator continued descending. Maya saw they had passed level 12 and were heading lower. She had to act now. She had grown up in the rough domes of Luna Colony, where survival meant knowing how to fight. She had promised herself never to use violence again, but this was life or death. Maya stomped hard on the older officer's foot and simultaneously drove her elbow into his stomach. He grunted in surprise and his grip loosened. Maya pulled free and lunged for the elevator emergency stop button. The older officer recovered quickly and reached for his weapon. Danny reacted instinctively, stepping between them. "Wait," Danny said. "Let's just calm down and figure this out." "Move aside," the older officer ordered. His weapon was half drawn. Danny looked at his partner's face and seemed to see something that troubled him. "Why are we below level 12? "She's right. This isn't standard procedure." "I said move aside," the older officer repeated. His weapon was fully drawn now, pointed at Danny. Danny's hand moved to his own weapon. The elevator felt very small and very dangerous. Maya pressed herself against the wall, her heart hammering. "Put the gun down," Danny said. His voice was shaking but determined. "If this is legitimate, we can sort it out at the main office." The older officer's expression turned cold and calculating. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then he made his decision. He pointed his weapon at Maya instead of Danny. "I'll shoot her if you don't cooperate." Step aside now, Maya saw her death in the man's eyes. He would kill her and probably Danny too. The conspiracy was too important to let witnesses survive. She needed to do something. The elevator reached level 8, a storage area rarely used during day shift. The doors opened. The older officer gestured with his weapon. "Both of you out, now." Danny stepped out first, his hand still on his weapon. Maya followed, her mind desperately searching for a way to survive. The corridor outside was empty and dimly lit. Storage containers lined the walls. "Walk," the older officer commanded. He kept his weapon trained on Maya but positioned himself where he could watch Danny too. They moved down the corridor. Maya knew that once they reached a secluded spot, the officer would kill them both. She had to make a move before then. She thought about the station layout. She had cleaned every level for 7 years. She knew emergency access points and service tunnels that didn't appear on standard maps. There was a maintenance hatch about 20 meters ahead on the right side. If she could reach it, she might be able to escape through the station's infrastructure. But she would have to be fast. "Stop here," the older officer said. They had reached an intersection of corridors. All directions looked empty. Maya made her move. She suddenly dropped to the floor and rolled toward the maintenance hatch. The officer fired, but the shot went high. Danny shouted and drew his own weapon. Maya reached the hatch and pulled it open. The space behind was narrow but accessible. She threw herself through the opening as another shot rang out. She heard Danny and the older officer struggling behind her. The maintenance tunnel was dark and cramped. Maya crawled forward as fast as she could. Behind her, she heard the officer shout and then the sound of running feet. He was coming after her. Maya's knowledge of the station saved her. She knew these tunnels connected to the ventilation system. She could move through the infrastructure and emerge almost anywhere. She crawled through the darkness, ignoring the pain in her knees and elbows. She heard the officer enter the tunnel behind her. He was larger than her and moved more slowly in the confined space. Maya pressed her advantage, moving faster despite the cramped conditions. After several minutes of crawling, Maya reached a vertical shaft. This was part of the ventilation system. She could climb up or down. She chose up, knowing the officer would expect her to go down toward the lower levels. The climb was difficult. The shaft was designed for maintenance robots, not humans. Maya had to use small handholds and brace herself against the walls. Her arms burned with effort. Below her, she heard the officer reach the shaft and curse. She climbed 2 levels before exiting through another hatch. She emerged in a service corridor on level 10. This area was used for equipment storage. Maya took a moment to catch her breath and assess her situation. She had escaped immediate danger, but her problems were far from over. The older officer would alert his co-conspirators. They would be hunting for her throughout the station. She had lost her communication device when the officer grabbed her. She had no way to contact anyone or access her evidence. Maya checked the time on a wall display. It was 11:30. 2.5 hours until the ceremony. The bombs would explode with Palmer and the Viridian delegates in attendance. Hundreds would die. The alliance would be destroyed. She had to reach someone in authority who wasn't part of the conspiracy. But who could she trust? Security was compromised. She didn't know how deep the conspiracy went. Admiral Morrison was in charge of station security. Was she involved? Or was she unaware of the infiltration? Maya decided she had to risk it. She would try to reach Admiral Morrison directly. The Admiral's office was on level 15 in the Security Command Center. It would be heavily guarded, but Maya knew alternative routes through the service areas. She moved through the corridors carefully, staying in the less traveled areas. She passed cleaning crews and maintenance workers, people who wouldn't question her presence. She was just another worker doing her job. As she moved, Maya thought about Danny. Had he survived the confrontation with the older officer? She hoped so. He had tried to help her, had questioned his partner's orders. He had been a good person in a terrible situation. Maya reached a service elevator that would take her to level 15. She pressed the call button and waited. When the elevator arrived, it was empty. She stepped inside and selected her destination. The elevator rose through the station. Maya watched the numbers change, her tension increasing with each level. At any moment, the elevator could stop and hostile forces could enter. But she reached level 15 without incident. The doors opened onto a service corridor near the Security Command Center. Maya could see the main entrance 50 meters away. Armed guards stood at attention. She couldn't just walk up and ask to see the Admiral. She needed a different approach. Maya remembered that the Admiral had a private office connected to the command center. That office had a service entrance used by cleaning staff. Maya had cleaned it many times. She knew the access code because it never changed. She made her way to the service entrance through a maze of corridors. She reached the door and entered the code. It worked. The door opened and Maya slipped inside. The Admiral's office was empty. Maya moved to the main door that connected to the command center. She could hear voices on the other side. She pressed her ear against the door and listened. Admiral Morrison was giving orders to her staff. She was coordinating security for the ceremony. Her voice was calm and professional. She didn't sound like someone involved in a conspiracy. Maya made her decision. She opened the door and stepped into the command center. 20 security personnel turned to look at her. Admiral Morrison stood at the center of the room, surprise evident on her face. "My name is Maya Johnson," Maya said loudly. I'm a cleaning technician. There are bombs planted throughout the executive tower and in the Grand Hall. They're set to explode during the ceremony. I have evidence, but it was taken from me. You need to evacuate and search for the devices immediately. Admiral Morrison stared at her. The room was completely silent. Maya's fate and the fate of everyone on the station hung in the balance. Admiral Kate Morrison was a woman who had seen combat in the outer colonies. She had commanded military vessels and fought pirates in the asteroid belt. She had learned to read people quickly and accurately. As she looked at Maya standing in her command center, disheveled and desperate, the Admiral made a snap judgment based on years of experience. Secure her, but don't use force unless necessary, Admiral Morrison ordered. 2 security officers moved toward Maya, but their approach was cautious rather than aggressive. Admiral, please listen, Maya said quickly. My name is Maya Johnson. I work night shift cleaning in the executive tower. For the past week, I've been observing unauthorized installations throughout the station. People in maintenance uniforms installing devices they claimed were environmental sensors. But they're not sensors. They're explosives. That's a serious accusation, Admiral Morrison said. Her voice was neutral, giving nothing away. Our security teams have swept the station multiple times. We found nothing suspicious. Because the devices look legitimate, Maya explained. They're designed to blend in with normal station equipment. I only noticed them because I work nights and I saw them being installed. The installation wasn't logged in maintenance records. The people installing them used forged identification. One of the Admiral's staff spoke up. Admiral, we received a report an hour ago about a cleaning woman making threats in Palmer's office. Security was handling it. Is this the same person? I wasn't making threats, Maya said desperately. I was trying to warn him. They arrested me, but one of the security officers was fake. He tried to kill me. I barely escaped. Admiral Morrison's expression sharpened. Which officer? I don't know his name. Older man, cold eyes. His badge looked wrong. The holographic security feature was slightly off. The other officer with him was Danny Price. Danny tried to help me. The Admiral turned to her staff. Find Officer Price, bring him here immediately, and pull up security footage from Palmer's office 1 hour ago. A technician worked at a computer terminal. Within seconds, images appeared on a large display screen. The footage showed Maya being escorted by 2 security officers. The Admiral studied the older officer's face. I don't recognize him, Admiral Morrison said. Computer, identify that officer by badge number. The computer responded with a flat voice. Badge number 774 belongs to Officer Nathan Cross. However, facial recognition does not match personnel records for Officer Cross. The room erupted in urgent conversations. Admiral Morrison raised her hand for silence. This confirms part of her story. We have an imposter in our security force, but that doesn't prove there are bombs. I have proof, Maya said. I took photographs on my communication device, but the fake officer took it from me. Describe the locations of these alleged devices, the Admiral commanded. Maya closed her eyes and visualized the station layout, 1 near the executive elevators on level 40, 2 in the Grand Hall, 1 by the east ventilation system and 1 near the stage, 1 in the service corridor outside Palmer's private quarters, and at least 3 more in other locations I documented. The Admiral turned to a technician. Pull up those locations on the schematic. Highlight all registered environmental monitoring equipment. The station schematic appeared on the screen with small blue dots indicating sensors. The technician zoomed in on the locations Maya had specified. At each location, there were sensors that matched Maya's description. Those are standard environmental monitors, the technician said, installed 6 months ago as part of a system upgrade. Check the installation dates in the maintenance database, Maya urged. These devices are newer. They were put in place over the past week. The technician worked for a moment. Her expression changed. Admiral, there's something odd. The serial numbers for these sensors show they were installed 6 months ago, but the local logs on the devices themselves show activation dates from the past week. Someone altered the central database. Admiral Morrison's face hardened. That requires high-level access. This is a sophisticated operation. She turned to Maya. You said you opened one of these devices. What did you see inside? An explosive charge, Maya replied. Similar to the mining charges used in asteroid operations. There was also a timer counting down. Based on what I saw, they're set to detonate at 2 o'clock, during the ceremony. The Admiral checked the time. That's 90 minutes from now. She made her decision quickly. Initiate station-wide security alert level red. I want bomb disposal teams to every location this woman indicated. Evacuate the Grand Hall immediately. Postpone the ceremony. And find Palmer. I need to brief him personally. The command center transformed into controlled chaos. Personnel moved with urgent purpose. Commands were issued and confirmed. Maya felt relief wash over her. Someone was finally listening. Someone was taking action. The door burst open and Danny Price entered, escorted by 2 security officers. His uniform was torn and he had a bruise on his face. He saw Maya and his expression showed relief. You made it, Danny said. I wasn't sure you would. What happened to the other officer? Admiral Morrison asked. We struggled after she escaped, Danny explained. He shot at me, grazed my shoulder. Then he ran. I tried to pursue but lost him in the lower levels. I reported it immediately, but by then he had disappeared. He's somewhere on the station, the Admiral said, probably alerting his co-conspirators that we know about the plot, which means they might try to detonate the devices early or initiate a backup plan. She turned to her communications officer. Have you located Palmer? He's in the Grand Hall, Admiral. The evacuation is underway, but he's refusing to leave until he understands the situation. Admiral Morrison muttered something under her breath. Of course he is. I'm going there personally. You 2 are coming with me. She pointed at Maya and Danny. They moved quickly through the corridors. The station was in full alert mode. Security teams rushed to designated positions. Civilians were being directed to safe areas. Announcements played over the communication system, calm but urgent. They reached the Grand Hall in minutes. The massive space was being cleared of workers and equipment. At the center of the chaos stood Gregory Palmer, arguing with a security captain. The Viridian delegates were being escorted out by a protective detail. The aliens moved with fluid grace, their crystalline bodies reflecting the hall's lights. Palmer saw Admiral Morrison approaching and strode toward her. His face was red with anger. Kate, what is the meaning of this? We have 90 minutes until the most important ceremony in human history, and you're evacuating the venue. There's been a credible threat, the Admiral replied. We have evidence of explosives planted throughout the station, including in this hall. Palmer's anger shifted to concern. How credible? Credible enough that I'm not willing to risk your life or the lives of our Viridian guests. Admiral Morrison gestured to Maya. This woman discovered the plot. She tried to warn you earlier. Palmer looked at Maya for the second time that day. This time he really saw her. You're the cleaning woman from my office. Yes, sir, Maya said. I tried to tell you. There are bombs disguised as sensors. They're set to explode during the ceremony. Why didn't anyone believe her? Palmer demanded. Because I'm nobody, Maya answered simply. I'm just a cleaning woman. Nobody notices me. Nobody listens to me. But that's why I saw what others missed. I was invisible. Palmer's expression showed something Maya had never seen from him before. Shame. He understood what she was saying. He had walked past her hundreds of times without seeing her as a person. He had dismissed her warning because of who she was rather than what she was saying. A security team leader approached the Admiral. We've found the devices. Bomb disposal is working on them now. They're definitely explosives, just as she described. Sophisticated design, professional installation. This was a well-planned operation. Can you disarm them in time? Admiral Morrison asked. Most of them, yes. But there's a problem. The devices are networked. If we disarm one incorrectly, it might trigger the others. We need the master control unit to safely deactivate the entire system. Where would that be? Palmer asked. The security leader looked at his portable display. Based on the signal patterns, somewhere in the executive tower. But the exact location is shielded. We can't pinpoint it without a physical search. Maya thought about everything she had observed. The pattern of installations. The routes the fake maintenance workers had taken. The locations they had access to. Then she remembered something. The storage room on level 8, Maya said, near where the fake officer tried to take me. When I escaped through the maintenance tunnels, I heard equipment running in that room. It didn't make sense because that storage area is supposed to be inactive. Admiral Morrison looked at the security leader. Check it. The leader spoke into his communication device. After a moment, he nodded. We're reading strong electronic signals from that location. It matches the profile of a control unit. Send a team, the Admiral ordered. Carefully. If the conspirators know we're onto them, they might be guarding it or preparing to trigger early. I can help, Maya said. I know that area. I know the service tunnels and alternative access points. I can guide your team. Palmer spoke before the Admiral could respond. No, you've done enough. You've already risked your life. Maya led the security team through the service corridors of Level 8. The team leader was a woman named Commander Lisa Beck. She moved with the confidence of someone who had seen combat and survived. The other 5 team members followed in tactical formation, their weapons ready but pointed safely. The storage room is ahead, Maya said quietly. There are 2 entrances. The main door faces the primary corridor, but there's a service hatch that connects to the maintenance tunnels. That's how I escaped earlier. Commander Beck studied a schematic on her portable display. The service hatch isn't on our maps. It wouldn't be, Maya explained. The older sections of the station have infrastructure that was never fully documented. I only know about them because I've cleaned every centimeter of this place. The team reached the intersection near the storage room. Beck held up a fist and everyone stopped. She pulled out a scanning device and pointed it at the storage room door. After a moment, she nodded. I'm reading 3 life signs inside, she whispered, and significant electronic activity, consistent with a control system. Maya, you're staying here with Officer Price while we breach. Danny had been assigned to protect Maya during the operation. He stood next to her now, his weapon drawn. Maya wanted to argue, but she knew Beck was right. She wasn't a soldier. She would only be in the way during a confrontation. Beck and her team moved into position. 2 officers approached the main door. 2 more circled around toward where Maya had indicated the service hatch would be. Beck and 1 other officer stayed in overwatch position. Through hand signals, Beck coordinated the breach. On her count, both teams would enter simultaneously from different directions. The conspirators inside would be caught between 2 groups of armed security personnel. Beck counted down silently with her fingers. 3, 2, 1. Both teams breached at once. Maya heard shouting, the sound of weapons firing, and then a brief silence. Her heart pounded as she waited. Danny stood tense beside her, ready to protect her if needed. Beck's voice came over the communication channel. Room secure. 3 suspects in custody. We have the control unit. Maya exhaled with relief. Danny smiled at her. They moved toward the storage room entrance. Inside, Maya saw the 3 conspirators being restrained by security officers. One was the fake officer who had tried to kill her. He glared at Maya with pure hatred. The control unit sat on a table in the center of the room. It was larger than Maya had expected, about the size of a small suitcase. Multiple displays showed countdowns and system statuses. Wires connected it to a powerful communication array. A bomb disposal expert who had been waiting outside entered the room. She approached the control unit carefully. This is sophisticated work. Military-grade equipment. Whoever designed this knew what they were doing. Can you disarm it? Beck asked. The expert studied the device for several long minutes. Yes, but I need to work carefully. If I make a mistake, it will trigger all the explosives at once. Everyone except essential personnel needs to evacuate to a safe distance. Beck looked at Maya. You've done your part. Time to go. Maya wanted to stay, but she understood. She left the storage room with Danny and most of the security team. They moved down the corridor to a safe location. The minutes ticked by slowly. Maya checked the time repeatedly. 40 minutes until the scheduled detonation. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication system. All teams report status. Various security teams around the station confirmed they had located and isolated the explosive devices. The bomb disposal expert in the storage room reported steady progress on the control unit. Everything was going according to plan. Then the communication system crackled with an urgent message. Admiral, we have a situation in Docking Bay 5. One of the conspirators activated a dead man's switch before we could secure him. He's threatening to trigger a backup detonator. Admiral Morrison's voice remained calm. Can you disarm him? Negative. He's barricaded himself in a maintenance closet. Any attempt to breach will give him time to activate the switch. Maya felt her stomach drop. They had found the control unit and most of the conspirators, but one person with a backup system could still destroy everything. She thought about the station layout. Docking Bay 5 was on the opposite side of the station from where they were now. Commander Beck emerged from the storage room. The control unit is disarmed. All networked explosives are deactivated. She listened to her communication device and her expression darkened. But that doesn't help with the backup system. What are the options? Danny asked. Limited, Beck replied. We can try to talk him down. We can attempt a breach and hope we're faster than his trigger finger. Or we can evacuate the areas around the explosives and accept partial casualties. Maya thought about the layout of Docking Bay 5. She had cleaned there countless times. She knew every corner, every access point, and she knew something the security team might not have considered. The maintenance closet in Docking Bay 5 has a ventilation connection, Maya said. It's small, but someone thin enough could crawl through it. They could come up behind him before he knows they're there. Beck looked at the schematic. I don't see any ventilation connection on these plans. It's not documented, Maya explained. It was part of the original construction, but was supposed to be sealed during upgrades. The sealing work was never completed. I know because I've used it to access difficult cleaning areas. Beck studied Maya for a long moment. How small is this ventilation shaft? Very small, Maya admitted. Most of your team wouldn't fit. But I would. Absolutely not, Beck said immediately. You're a civilian. I can't send you into a hostage situation. I'm the only one who knows the exact route, Maya insisted. And I'm small enough to move quietly. Your team can create a distraction while I approach from behind. Once I'm in position, I can signal you and you can breach. Danny spoke up. I can fit in tight spaces. I'll go, Beck shook her head. You've been injured, and you haven't trained for this type of operation. She looked at Maya again. Are you absolutely certain about this ventilation route? Yes, Maya said. I've used it before. I can guide someone through or I can go myself. Beck was silent for a moment, clearly struggling with the decision. Finally, she spoke into her communication device. Admiral Morrison, I need authorization for an unconventional approach. The Admiral's voice came back immediately. Explain. Beck described Maya's plan. There was a long pause. Then Admiral Morrison said, Put Maya on. Beck handed her device to Maya. Yes, Admiral. Maya Johnson, I cannot order you to do this. This is far beyond anything a civilian should be asked to do. But time is running out and options are limited. Are you volunteering? Maya thought about her children. She thought about her mother. She thought about all the people on the station who would die if she did nothing. Yes, Admiral. I'm volunteering. Then you have my authorization. Godspeed. Beck took back her device. All right. We move fast. I'll have a team create a distraction at the main entrance. You guide 2 of my officers to the ventilation access point. They'll provide cover while you navigate to the maintenance closet. Once you're in position, signal me. We'll time the breach to your signal. Understood? Maya nodded. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. This was what needed to be done. They moved through the station quickly. Security teams were coordinating the operation. As they approached Docking Bay 5, Maya could hear the sound of negotiators trying to talk to the barricaded conspirator. His responses were angry and defiant. Maya led Beck and another officer to an unmarked panel in a side corridor. She opened it to reveal the ventilation shaft. It was dark and narrow. Beck looked at it skeptically. You're sure this connects to the maintenance closet? Positive, Maya said. 20 meters forward, take the left branch at the junction, then 15 more meters. The shaft opens into the back wall of the closet behind a removable vent cover. Beck checked her equipment. I'm giving you a communication earpiece and a small camera. I'll be able to see what you see and talk you through any problems. If at any point this becomes too dangerous, you abort. That's an order. Maya put in the earpiece and attached the tiny camera to her uniform collar. She took a deep breath and entered the shaft. It was cramped and dark. She had to crawl on her hands and knees, sometimes flat on her stomach. Beck's voice came through the earpiece. I have your video feed. Good quality. Move slowly and carefully. No rush, Maya crawled forward. The metal surfaces of the shaft were cold against her hands. She focused on moving smoothly and quietly. Behind her in the station, she heard increased activity as the distraction team prepared their approach. She reached the junction Beck had mentioned. Left branch. She took it and continued forward. The shaft seemed to go on forever. Her knees hurt and her arms ached, but she kept moving. Finally, she saw a light ahead. The vent cover. She approached it carefully and looked through the slats. She could see into the maintenance closet. The conspirator stood with his back partially to her. He held a device in his hand, his thumb on what was clearly the trigger. He was focused on the door where negotiators continued talking to him. I'm in position, Maya whispered. Confirmed, Beck replied. Can you remove the vent cover without alerting him? Maya examined it. 4 screws. She pulled out a small tool from her pocket. Very slowly, very carefully. Gregory Palmer stood in the command center watching the displays that showed bomb disposal teams completing their work throughout the station. His expensive suit was rumpled and his normally perfect hair was disheveled. He looked like a man who had just confronted his own mortality and didn't like what he had learned. When Maya entered with Danny and Commander Beck, Palmer turned to face her. The room fell silent. Everyone was watching to see what would happen. The CEO of one of humanity's largest corporations and a cleaning woman who had just saved his life. It was a moment that would define them both. Palmer walked toward Maya. She stood straight despite her exhaustion. She had crawled through ventilation shafts and risked her life. She had nothing to apologize for. Palmer stopped in front of her and did something Maya had never expected. He extended his hand. Maya Johnson, Palmer said, his voice carrying through the quiet command center. I owe you my life. More than that, I owe you an apology. You came to my office this morning to warn me. You told me the truth, and I dismissed you because I couldn't see past your job title to the person you are. That was my failure, not yours. Maya shook his hand. You're welcome, sir. I did what anyone would have done. No, Palmer said firmly. Most people would have given up when nobody listened. Most people would have walked away when they were dismissed and threatened. You persisted. You kept fighting even when it put your own life at risk. That's not what anyone would do. That's what a hero does. Admiral Morrison stepped forward. The preliminary interrogation of the conspirators has revealed that this was an operation funded by the Free Humanity movement. That's the extremist group that opposes alien contact. They infiltrated our security and maintenance teams over the past 6 months. They planned this attack down to the smallest detail. Without Maya's observations and courage, they would have succeeded. Palmer turned to address everyone in the command center. Let this be a lesson to all of us. We nearly lost everything today because we didn't listen. We didn't see. We had become so focused on the big picture that we forgot the importance of every individual. This woman, who we all passed in the hallways without a second thought, saw what our expensive sensors missed. She noticed what our trained security personnel overlooked. Why? Because she paid attention. Because she cared. Because she understood that no detail is too small when lives are at stake. The personnel in the command center began to clap. The sound grew until everyone was applauding. Maya felt tears in her eyes. For 7 years she had been invisible. Now finally someone saw her. The ceremony was rescheduled for 4 hours later to allow final security sweeps and to give everyone time to recover from the crisis. Palmer insisted that Maya attend as his personal guest. He also insisted she see the station medical facility to be checked for injuries from her ordeal. The medical staff treated her bruised knees and strained shoulders. They gave her medication for the pain and told her to rest. But Maya couldn't rest. She had to contact her children and her mother. She had to let them know she was safe. Her communication device had been recovered from the fake security officer. She called home. Her daughter Sophie answered, her young face appearing on the screen. Mom, we heard there was a security alert at the station. Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart, Maya assured her. Everything is fine now. How's your grandmother? She's sleeping. Mom, they're saying on the news that someone stopped a terrorist attack. They're not saying who yet, but some people are saying it was a cleaning woman. Was that you? Maya smiled. Yes, baby. That was me. Sophie's eyes went wide. You're a hero. I just did my job, Maya said. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't quite true. She had done much more than her job. She had done what was right regardless of the cost. After talking with her children and her mother, Maya was escorted to a private room where she could clean up and change. Palmer's personal assistant brought her a dress to wear to the ceremony. It was beautiful, far nicer than anything Maya owned. She put it on and looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back. At 6 p.m, the grand hall filled with people. All the bombs had been safely removed and disposed of. The conspirators were in custody. Extra security personnel had been brought in from every part of the station. Nothing would go wrong this time. Maya entered the hall with Danny at her side. He had cleaned up too and looked sharp in his dress uniform. They were directed to seats in the front row, usually reserved for senior executives. People stared at Maya as she passed. Word had spread about what she had done. Crystallis Prime and the other Viridian delegates entered to respectful applause. The aliens moved with grace, their crystalline bodies catching the light and creating rainbow patterns on the walls. They were beautiful and strange, a reminder that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Palmer took the stage. He looked out at the assembled crowd and began to speak. Today was supposed to be a day of celebration, a historic moment when humanity and the Viridian species formalized our alliance. Instead, it became a day when we nearly lost everything. A day when extremism and hatred nearly destroyed the future we're building together. He paused and looked directly at Maya. But it also became a day when we learned what humanity is truly capable of. Not our technology, not our weapons, not our wealth or power, but our people. Specifically, one person who nobody noticed, one person who everyone overlooked, one person who saw what needed to be seen and did what needed to be done. Palmer gestured for Maya to stand. Reluctantly, she rose. The entire hall erupted in applause. It went on until Palmer raised his hands for silence. Maya Johnson is a cleaning technician, Palmer continued. She has worked on this station for 7 years. In that time, she has walked these halls quietly doing her job while the rest of us pursued what we thought were more important things. We didn't see her. We didn't value her. We treated her as invisible. That was our mistake. Our blind spot. Our failure. Palmer's voice grew stronger. Maya noticed things nobody else saw because she paid attention in a way nobody else did. She understood that every detail matters. Every person matters. When she tried to warn us, we didn't listen because we couldn't see past her job title. That almost cost us everything. It should never happen again. Crystallis Prime rose and moved to the stage. The alien's translator device activated. I wish to speak, the melodious voice said. Palmer nodded and stepped aside. My species has observed humanity for many years, Crystallis Prime said. We have watched you spread across your solar system. We have studied your technology and your culture. We have debated whether contact would be beneficial for both our peoples. Some among my kind argued that humans were too focused on hierarchy and status, that you valued position over merit, that you did not truly see each other. The Viridian's crystalline body seemed to glow brighter. Today we learned that our concerns were partly correct. Hierarchy and status do blind many humans. But we also learned something more important. We learned that within humanity exists the capacity for extraordinary courage and wisdom in unexpected places. We learned that the value of a human is not determined by their position, but by their character. We learned that humanity at its core understands what matters most. Crystallis Prime turned toward Maya. Maya Johnson, you represent what we admire most about your species. You could have remained silent when no one listened. You could have protected yourself when danger came. You could have let others take responsibility. Instead, you chose courage. You chose persistence. You chose sacrifice. These are the qualities that make humanity worthy of partnership with the Viridian people. The alien approached Maya and extended what appeared to be a hand, though it was formed of crystal rather than flesh. Maya, not knowing what else to do, took it. The crystal was warm and seemed to pulse with inner light. On behalf of my people, I thank you, Crystallis Prime said. You have not only saved lives today, you have validated the faith we placed in humanity. You have shown us that we made the right choice in seeking alliance with your species. The hall erupted in applause again. Maya stood there, holding the hand of an alien being from another star system, and realized that her life had changed forever. She would never be invisible again. The signing ceremony proceeded without further incident. Palmer and Crystallis Prime signed the historic agreement that would reshape humanity's future. The fusion technology the Viridians offered would solve energy problems that had limited human expansion for decades. In return, humans would provide rare minerals from the asteroid belt that the Viridians needed for their own civilization. After the ceremony, Palmer called Maya to his office. She entered nervously, still not quite believing everything that had happened. Palmer sat behind his massive wooden desk and gestured for her to sit across from him. I've been thinking about what happened today, Palmer said, about how close we came to disaster, about how many failures had to occur for us to reach that point. And I've realized that those failures were systemic. They were built into how we operate as a company and as a society. He pulled up several documents on his desk display. I'm implementing changes. First, regarding you specifically, I'm offering you a position in corporate security as a special advisor.